Hi, and welcome to Table Talk with Tom and Tresta Neal. I'm Tom, and this is Tresta, and we are on episode 13 and starting a new topic.
Yes.
And our topic today is principles.
Yep, recognizing principles. So recognizing principles, what are they, and why is all the buzz about principles? If you were with us for Saturday with our conference, then we talked about that quite a bit.
During the masterclass,
so
we talked exclusively about that
yes,
for the whole 3 hours. So
yep. So today we are going to have Alex Spieser, Karen Bates, Victor Ludlow, and Belinda Ballantyne. So we have 4 coming in today because they were short ones.
Well, because they were just defining
what they think principles are. So that's what we're doing today. So I think we're going to just dive right in, and then we'll talk about what each one of them is and the definition. So search for, while you're looking for these, the definition of a principle.
That's not right. Oh, I haven't loaded it. Sorry. I was confused. No, see, it didn't load the right one.
All right.
Oh, fun.
So do you want me to go on into a training instead or something?
Yeah, you start talking and I'll figure this tech out.
Okay. All right. So with principles, everybody has learned about, like, it's important to teach them and, what it is and how to do them. And it's important to know all of them, right? It's important to know the how, the what, and the why, and several different ways to do it how. But today we're just going to concentrate on the definition. So you have ready for Alex?
We are ready.
All right. His is really, really short, but just listen to his definition. So what is your definition of principles?
My definition of principles?
Yeah.
They are applicable concepts. That's what my definition is. Right. So meaning it guides our action. Mm-hmm. It is the what, not the how, but the what.
Okay.
Like what we need to do. Mm-hmm. So because if we know that what we need to do is I need to stand up for freedom, then we can be creative about the how.
Right. I like that. So I told you it was short, right?
Short and sweet to the point.
Short and sweet to the point. Yep. But I loved it. Applicable concepts is his definition. I've been collecting definitions so that I can understand principles more. And I thought that was a really good one. Applicable concepts. He says also that principles are what we are to do, not how to do it, but what we are to do. And I love that too. Just simple what we are to do. Yeah.
So cool. And I was supposed to be getting ready the next one.
So the next one is Belinda Ballantyne, and she goes into several examples of how she puts these principles into action in her schooling. So here's Belinda. What does the word principle mean to you? Can you define principle?
Yes, I can.
Yay.
In my mind.
Okay.
A principle is a truth that is always true.
Okay.
Like in all the different situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you use those principles in your school?
Well, all the time. There's gospel principles that stay the same. You be honest. God is real. The Spirit will help you. Prayer works. To me, those are principles.
Yes.
And you use them whenever they are needed.
Mm-hmm.
At any time, someone has a meltdown. They have a meltdown for a reason. Mm-hmm. Could be anything. But if they know God loves them in this meltdown stage, I feel like it's the first rekindling of, I'm okay, and they can stand back up.
Yeah.
So that principle, just using that little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have meltdowns a lot.
Even mommies have meltdowns.
But remembering that you're a daughter or son of God gives you just a little power to say, it's going to be okay. This is a horrible thing that's happening in our family or in our life or in my paper. Mm-hmm. But I can make it work and I can get help. Gospel principles I feel like are just such a part of life that you would just use them at any second you needed them.
Yeah.
But then principles in life, every sentence must end with a period.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you're talking, your ideas should end in a period. Do you know what I'm saying?
When you're speaking,
or you're writing,
you rest. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So great examples, don't you think?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that she separated them. She put like gospel principles are always true. And then she gave an example of principles within grammar. Mm-hmm. So, her definition then is a principle is something that is true. No, something that is true, that is always true in all situations.
Yeah, I think the word she used was, it's a truth that's always true.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, I might have wrote it down wrong. So yeah, a truth that is always true in all circumstances. And she says, gospel principles always stay the same. Our grammar principles, depending on the language we're using or depending on things, but as a principle.
Since I study languages and everything, I think I'm going to check that one out. I'll bet the principles are all the same, depending on right through all the languages, because the principle's true.
Yeah.
So the principles behind it are probably true. The grammar rules and the way you do things are not the same as principles.
Right. Yeah, those are rules.
So therefore, I'll bet that there's principles are the same everywhere.
Okay.
So we'll check that out.
Yep. I bet you're
Just
probably right. Yep. But I also, just a side note, as what she said about the a meltdown, right? She says, knowing the first principle of that God loves you in all situations is the first rekindling of bringing you out of your meltdown.
It gives you that hope.
Yeah.
It gives you a support.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine, a kid melting down and then you go over to them and say, God still loves you, even in your meltdown. Well, or something to that effect.
Absolutely. But also, it would also work just in the idea that you would do that with a child, that God will do it with you. Mm. In other words, you go to the child and you reassure them of your love. Mm-hmm. It's that same.
It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't help the problem, but it just gives them a foundation. And how she said a rekindling. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to read you a quotation. Let's see, which one was it? By Ezra Taft Benson. And this was about principles too. He says, one of the most important things you can do to immerse yourself is to immerse yourself in the scriptures, to search them diligently, to feast on the words of Christ, to learn the doctrine. And then he says, master the principles that are found therein, to master them. And I think that is so beautiful. And I loved what Ali said last Saturday when she said that principles are what we're going to be held accountable for, right? Mm-hmm. Not what we're not going to be held accountable for the facts and the details and stuff like that, but what we're going to be, mastering the principles is so important. So, okay. So up next is Karen Bates. And, let's listen to her definition of a principle. All right. So what is your personal definition of a principle?
It's a truth that can be applied to a variety of circumstances that will bless your life and help you find more joy and bring you closer to your Heavenly Father.
Simple. So tell me give me an example of how you teach principles in your home.
When we read something, I'll ask a question like, why did this outcome happen? Why do you think these people decided to do this? And a lot of those why questions will start to pull out principles. Why did these, why did this consequence take place? Or why did he choose this choice? And so a lot of times we'll just look at it that way. We'll start to find whys in the things that people do. And then it'll lead us to a principle. Also, nature. I just love finding principles in nature. So we go on hikes and I'll just I'll say, what do you think Heavenly Father was trying to teach us with these flowers? Or what do you think he was, the way this tree works? And we'll just learn things that way. And I just think nature is Heavenly Father's book to us of principles. And there's just so much there. So we try to find those things as well and just look around us. And I think Heavenly Father is always speaking to us if we just take the time to look around and see what he wants us to see. Then we'll find answers and we'll find principles that he's ready to give us at that time.
Yeah.
Or wanting to give us at that time.
Yeah, I agree. I did this experiment one time. Actually, it was just last year. I just thought, I want to see a butterfly every single day. And I thought, if, just just to feel God's love through a butterfly. And that's what I wanted to do. So I would keep track of it in my journal. Just where did I see the butterfly that day? Okay. And some days I never left the house. And a butterfly would fly up to the window and fly around and go away. And I was like, beautiful. I just saw the butterfly. So yeah, I agree. Nature, God speaks to us through nature. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just a butterfly by the window, mm-hmm. It's always there. He's always there. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that gave me a big testimony too, that he cares about what I want and what I want to feel from him.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And some days, it was just a butterfly on someone's backpack or something. But yeah. All right. So what was Karen's definition? Hers was a principle. Our principles are truths that can be applied in a variety of circumstances.
It's a nice, simple way to explain it, because that's the way I usually see it. Yeah. I mean, if I can't use it in a variety of different places, then it's probably not a principle. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because it's always true.
Yeah. I liked, how one of the speakers said the definition. She goes, when they first discovered time, they were looking for a way to measure time, but they couldn't figure it out, and they're getting it wrong. In fact, they got it wrong a whole bunch of times until they figured out the principle behind time, and then they got it. And now it's so simple, we use it all the time that we don't even think about it.
It's true.
Right? But there are 60 seconds in a minute. It's all divided by sixes.
Even though we've got it as close as we can.
Yeah, yeah.
With our knowledge of the principle right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But even then, you discover that it's slightly off.
Right.
The calendar ends up off every so many years.
Right. Well, with the sun, you're talking, yeah.
Yeah. When it's first time.
That's true. So. That's true. Okay. So, also Karen also mentioned, she says the principles are the way things work. And I love that, how she says that the way things work. So that kind of leads us into what we want to teach you today. And Tom's going to bring up a picture. Well, maybe not right now. Let's talk about the 3 different things. So, when I've been just, studying principles, I've come up with the fact that we need to find out what principles are not, as well as what principles are. And in doing that, I've come across this amazing teaching guide of teaching you what concepts are, what procedures are, and what principles are. And so let's talk about the difference between them. Okay. So let's talk about with concepts first. Okay. Do you want to tell us what concepts are?
Okay. The concepts are the idea behind something. For example, the idea behind money. It's the idea and the pieces that make up that whole idea. So you have different denominations of money. You have what you can do with money. What its purposes. Those are all kind of the concept of money when you put it all together. Okay.
So that's the first level, or the first thing that we need to learn, right? Right. Well, we don't have to learn it. We don't have to even know it. But that's the concept.
Sometimes we don't know the concept.
Sometimes we don't. Yeah, exactly.
And it takes a while to get to the concept.
Yeah. But it's always there. Mm-hmm. The concept is always there. Yeah. So a concept, in a short definition that I've written out, says it represents the knowledge of things. It's just a knowledge. It's a group of things that comes together. It's an arbitrary grouping, but it's invented by people.
And that's the important part.
And that's the important part. Yeah.
Is that the whole thing has come up by our understanding or discovering things.
Mm-hmm. Or our own classifications of stuff.
Our own classification is what we put together to create it.
Yeah. It's our own concepts. All right. So the second thing are procedures. Now, procedures are the representatives of knowledge that changes, but it's also a set of steps, or you can look at it as something that we invent also. So it's also invented by things. So Tom here is going to explain it as an easier way to explain it.
Yeah, if I could find one. There we go.
Okay.
So here we have a frozen raspberry lemon pie, and we have, on the other side, it looks delicious and beautiful, but on the other side, we have the idea of what this is and what it's going to be like is the concept. We put certain ingredients together and we're going to have something. Mm-hmm. The procedure is and including the pieces that make up the pie. And then the procedure are these steps, step by step, what we'll do to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So think of procedures like a recipe. It's just the step by step of how we're going to do this, what we're going to do next, what goes next. It's the computation of the problem. And the third one is the principles. Now, the third principles also represents a knowledge of change, but they are not invented. They are discovered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we discover the principle, then we're like, whoa, now I get it. Now I understand, right?
And why is it that we discover it? It's because we don't make it up.
Right.
Man's not the one who makes those up.
Right. Exactly.
They are already there.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of God's creations. They're part of the universe of what He's done and everything. And they are there.
Yeah.
And so we have to discover them. We can't.
Yep, exactly. They teach us how to understand the concepts and the procedures, and they also teach us how to perform them. So let's show them the diagram, and they can be looking at that, and we'll give them an example. As you follow along on the diagram, then you're going to understand that we'll give you several examples that you can look off of this and see what we mean. All right, so here you go. You got the concepts in the left-hand bottom corner, and then you go procedures and then principles, and they all work together. They all are necessary, but you don't necessarily have to know them in order to fulfill them, correct?
Right.
So let's give some examples. Want to do the no-bake cookies example?
Okay, I like that one.
Okay, all right. So here we are. No-bake cookies are cookies that you don't bake, obviously.
Right. So there's the part of the concept. Mm-hmm. It's a cookie
that you don't bake.
That you're not going to bake.
Yeah.
It's going to be created some other way.
Right. So the concept is cookies. We're going to be having cookies.
Right.
Hopefully. All right. The procedure. Yeah. The procedure is you take sugar and milk and butter and you boil it together. And then you add oatmeal or peanut butter or coconut or whatever you want to add to that.
Cocoa and whatnot.
Cocoa. Yeah. And you stir it together and then you put it on wax paper and you wait till it cools and you eat it. That is the procedure of step by step a way of doing it. Now, the principle is...
The principles there's going to be more than one principle.
Yes,
here.
yes.
But the one we're going to concentrate on is the principle of that when you get to get the cookie to be properly cooked so that when you're ready to eat it, it neither crumbles in your hand, nor does it just kind of
or is it sticky in your hands? Yeah.
Mushy in your hand.
Right.
It's going to be right in between.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere that's the concept. That's what we're looking for. And so there's a principle that's involved in doing that. And it's interesting that when I first learned about no-bake cookies, I thought it had to do with the time it boiled.
Right.
2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or whatever that was. And that's not the case.
No, it's the temperature.
It's the temperature.
Yeah.
It just so happens that it takes a certain amount of time of boiling before it gets to that temperature.
Yes.
But you don't know.
But that wasn't a correct principle, right? You weren't living on a correct principle of that.
Because if my flame or my temperature of my stove isn't high enough, it will take longer.
Yeah.
And if it's a little bit too high, it'll take less time.
Yep.
And so the principle is that it's got to when the cookie reaches the mixture reaches a certain temperature, now you can add the other ingredients and let it start cooling immediately, add the other ingredients, and it will come out correctly.
Yeah. But if it's too high, it'll come out crumbly. If it's too low, it'll come out sticky. And those are the principles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So I hope we're understanding the concept. You need all of them. Now, could Tom have done the procedure and made the cookies with just the time? Absolutely.
And sometimes I did.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. We didn't know that because we don't know the principle behind it. But once you discover the principle, now you can use a thermometer and always get it right.
But in fact, that's what we've always done. When we started teaching our kids the no-bake cookies, that's exactly what we did. We said, well, just do it for this much time.
Yeah.
And we never used the thermometer because you're used to it. You kind of have a feel for it.
Right, yeah.
But so sometimes when they would do it, it would work and sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah. And so then we had to teach them the principle. And then once we got the principle, then it was good. All right. So how about another example?
Okay, really quickly, shall we, my math one?
Yes, let's do your math one.
So really quickly, I shared this on Saturday. We'll share the other on Saturday too. But what's interesting about this is that when I was going into 10th grade, I had just finished, of course, the year before I'd finished algebra, and I was going into algebra 2. And I was not getting it. I was not understanding it. I would do everything that the teacher would say to do, and it would come out wrong. And so then the teacher took me after school with a couple other kids, and we sat there at a counter, and she would go through and she would lecture us and teach us how to do it again, teach us the procedure of how to do it.
Yeah.
And then we would each go up to the board and we would do it, and it would, voila, it would work. Except that it didn't. I don't remember if anyone else had the trouble, but I couldn't make it work. And realized later that the real reason behind that was that I didn't understand the principles. I understood only I just knew what that procedure was.
Yeah.
You know, a simple principle of, well, if you change it over here on this side, you must change it over on this side. Well, if you realize that, you'll take care of that right away.
Yeah, that's a good principle.
And you won't miss
a step
of
right,
doing it.
Yeah.
And so what the principle in that case is doing is it's making sure you get every step.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's teaching you how to proceed.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly. All right. So, another one. Do you want to do it quickly?
Sure, we can do another one.
Quick one is F equals ma. And that's force times equals mass times acceleration. Now, that is just a computation. You could put in the numbers and you could do it and finish the procedure. And you don't even have to understand the concepts of what force is and what mass is and what acceleration is. You don't even have to know what that is. But you can, and you can do the procedure and get it right? But what about the principles? What are the principles behind this? When you increase force, you also increase acceleration.
So,
right, that's a principle in that.
You've got the equals between you. Have to do both. If you don't do both, it's not going to work.
Exactly. All right. So there's some ideas on how you need all three of these to make it work. But the principle behind it helps you to understand why things happen the way they do. And it also helps you to know how to perform what you're doing better. You can do it without them, but it's so much easier to do them with.
Well, you make sure you don't make a mistake. You make sure you don't forget something, everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to teach our children principles. Well, it's not just our children. We need to learn them ourselves. We need to learn how to discover them.
We need to be sure we are discovering true principles.
Yeah, all the time.
It's easy. I mean, otherwise we'll be bombarded with false principles.
Yes.
And how do you recognize a true principle? You use last month's topic, following the Spirit.
Yes. Yep, learning how to follow the Spirit. So, do you want to go on to another one, or shall we?
I think if you'd like, we can, because we started just a couple minutes late.
All right. Then we're going to go on to Victor Ludlow. He also answers the question. He has a really great definition. So listen for his definition. It's really good. So could you give us a definition of a principle?
Kind of a theory or explanation of some laws and facts. It's kind of the background, the context. It's not the whats and hows, but more of the whys and wherefore. So it's both coming from, but also going towards applying laws in our lives. The Lord in the Scriptures, as He gives commandments, He usually tells us what. He usually doesn't tell us why or even how.
Yeah.
Like the word of wisdom. You do this, don't do that. But I don't read anything in there where talking about tobacco, the word cancer or lung disease or something like that isn't mentioned there. Or as he talks about fruits and vegetables in their season, I don't see the words vitamins or minerals there.
Yeah.
God surely knew about those things. But in a way, it was kind of a test of faith. Just here's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Do it. But he also doesn't tell us the hows. Meat in its season and other teachings that are there. We should be intelligent, responsible, adult-like children who can figure this out for ourselves without having to be told.
Yeah.
And so a principle is a context that we can put things in to understand why.
Wow. I like that.
I mean, you stop and think of the three most important commandments the worst ones we could break are denying the Holy Ghost, murdering, and committing adultery.
Yeah.
There's a common thread through all three of them. The sanctity of life. Spiritual life, physical life, and beginning a new life.
Wow. That's
and once you understand some of those background contexts, then the dynamics and power of the specific commandments is much more impressive in your life.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So just give us an example of how you use principles in your life.
Well, again, it would be probably going beyond the what is this and how does it work and how does it function, but why and so what?
So what? Yeah, it's a good question.
What should I be doing with it? So it's both looking back in its context, but also looking ahead. How does or does it not apply in my life or others that may be in my circle of influence? Sometimes one of the problems we have is people who get some wonderful insights of the hows in their own lives, or they start putting up fences around things, so what the Jews call it. How am I going to live this? What am I, I'm supposed to honor the Sabbath day. Well, do I change clothes when I come home from church? Or what activities do we do? And we find something that works wonderfully for us. The tendency we have is to say, well, that works great for me. I want every person in my family. I want all the people I home teach or visit. I want everybody in the ward in my neighborhood. Well, it may not be for them.
Right.
Even the word of wisdom has some things that we have to do personally, adaptations.
That's true.
I have a grandchild that's lactose intolerant. I have another one that peanuts can be deadly for him. Their word of wisdom is different.
Yeah.
But just because that's necessary for them doesn't mean they should expect everybody in the church to do it.
Good point.
And so it's to keep things within the realm of application where it really belongs rather than pushing it on others.
Okay, so that was Victor. Did you hear his big definition?
Yeah, it had to do
right at the beginning.
Packaging and
he says a principle is the context to put things in to understand the why.
To discover the why.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so cool. I think it's so cool to think of it as that.
Well, so let's just take it right back to the cookies. When you understand the principle of the temperature, now you understand the why it's a certain time on the stove.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, that concludes today, but do you want to tell us the quotation for today?
Okay. I get to do the quotation this time.
Yay.
So this is Elder Richard G. Scott, who stated, "As you seek spiritual knowledge, search for principles. Carefully separate them from the detail used to explain them. Principles are concentrated truth, packaged for application to a wide variety of circumstances. principle, I'm going to say it again. Principles are concentrated truth packaged for application to a wide variety of circumstances. It's actually very similar to Victor's point in that the principle teaches you all about it. It teaches you why. If you look at it, it gives you the context to find the why. And then it guides you in a wide to the application in a wide variety of circumstances. So that you were looking at the word of wisdom, as he was saying, it allows it to be different for you than it is for me, even though the whole story there is the same. So there you have it. It's a really quick rundown of a principle, and we'll talk about it more in the next couple of weeks. But it's pretty exciting, actually. We've been having so much fun and finding so many new insights. On principles.
I don't think we'll ever be through studying principles, to be honest. I mean, we just keep learning and learning and learning. It's just so amazing. And now we're learning to teach it even differently, and we're teaching it to our children differently. I thought I understood principles, and I was reading a book to my kids just even a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking, yeah, I know how to do this. Discover principles. Well, I was wrong. Anyway, there's more. There's more you can do. There's different kinds of questions you can ask. And so we'll talk about that next time.
All right.
Discovering principles.
Okay, so that wraps it up for today. We're excited that you were with us. And remember, next week, of course, we'll be talking about principles again. And just looking forward to May's masterclass, which will be on moms.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thanks.
Great
Thanks for joining us.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye. To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To choose from our gifts and request updates on our most popular topics, visit calledtolearn.com. For more videos like this one, click this playlist. For homeschool stories, click this playlist here.